Welcome to On the Corner of Main Street, presented by Plaza Hotel and Casino in downtown Las Vegas. Here is Plaza CEO Jonathan Jossel, Gary Vickery, and I'm your host, Lisa Melmed. Good afternoon, Jonathan.
Good afternoon, Lisa. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. Gary can't be here today because of a very exciting Super Bingo happening today. How's it going up there?
It's going great. He's up there right now helping us let out the crowds. We have 3 different rooms of around 250 people in each one. Everyone's been respectful with the masks, temperature checks, and we had a visit from Gaming Control Board. Everyone was happy with how things are going, so very happy with it. Very proud of our team here that we've been able to execute and implement such an event in these situations, and the people are so happy to be back here. Every single one of them said, thank you for doing this, thank you for hosting this, thank you for having us back. So to see that appreciation, and it's important for our team as well. It's a morale booster to see the place busy, especially midweek now.
The comeback is on.
It's slowly but steady growing progress.
Yes.
I'm very excited about it, and we'll do it again in December, all being well, and it's Bingo's always been a big boost for the Plaza, so this is just a huge shot in the arm for us. It's great.
Yeah, and also downtown, we're looking at Circa. Their lights are on. I don't know if I haven't seen these bottom lights on before around the lower logo.
Yeah, it looks like they can do different things with them because I saw them red the other night. Now they're changing, so I'm sure they have a whole high-tech LED team there that's figuring out that. But 2 weeks today to the opening.
Downtown is bubbling.
Very, very much so. And we have our guest here today, who I'm very honored and excited to have here because in my 14 years here in Vegas, there's always sort of been people I've looked up to and admired. And the Cortez with Mike Nolan and Kenny Epstein and the family have been people that I've really looked to for not just guidance, but also mentorship. And I appreciate their love of the history of Vegas, and what they've done with the Cortez has been incredible. And also, you know, their old connection to the Plaza and the other properties that we have downtown. For me, it's great to be able to have Mike here today to talk to us and hear some of his stories, history, and perspective. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, without further ado, let's welcome Mike Nolan, the El Cortez Chief Operating Officer and partner. Welcome to On the Corner of Main Street.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for joining us today. The first thing I'd like to know is what is going on with the coin machines with the national coin shortage?
Well, we're doing okay. We still have about 150 coin machines. We had a lot more at one time. They stopped making parts for them, so it's hard to keep them going. But it's an old-time thing, just like the old-time El Cortez. So we call it like classic, our classic coin areas, whether it be dollars, half dollars, quarters, or nickels. And the customer enjoys it. So as we got into the times where we sent everything out for the closure, we didn't get the money we expected to get back. And the coins were down. And but we made it. We made it through. We just had to do the drop a little more often, and
so you're recycling the coins basically more frequently.
Recycling the coins, but there was a funny thing many years ago at the Club Bingo we had down the street here. We had 131 penny machines, and back then there was no cash; it was all coin, and I heard there was going to be a penny shortage, and this is when they switched from copper to zinc.
What year was this?
It was probably, let's see, I'm going to say probably about 1980. Mm-hmm. And so I decided I was sending $1,500 in pennies to the bank every week that people were bringing in. So I got concerned. I have 131 slot machines, and there's not going to be pennies. So I started holding the pennies and building up an inventory. Well, people were coming down, McDonald's, everybody else, they needed pennies. And the bank called me And they said, "You're not sending us the pennies." I said, "I hear there's a penny shortage." She said, "There is, and you're causing it." If you would send us the pennies, there'd be no shortage.
You were single-handedly...
I was hoarding pennies.
That's crazy. But is there still a shortage now?
It's working itself out. We've been able to get more. We and other people have offered the people to come in, turn in their coin for free, and given some rewards. And so we got through it. I think we're through that. And the coins are jingling, the trays are making lots of noise.
That's the best. Yeah, we got rid of our coin games, but I know for sure people like them a lot. It's great that you guys have been able to keep... I didn't realize it was 150. That's a lot.
Yeah, it was actually just about 200, and we keep taking it down.
Yeah, it's tough just to maintain them, right? Keep the parts.
That's correct. So, keep those things working.
So, Mike, as I mentioned in introducing you, you're someone that I've looked up to for many years and come to know very well from the Fremont East Board. Tell me, one of the questions I get asked a lot, and I wasn't here in 2004 and 5, what's your recollection of the deal, of how the plaza was acquired, and were you involved back then in the timing? I know you were involved because you were here, but what was your recollection of all of that and what happened at the time? It wasn't just the plaza, it was the Las Vegas Club, the Westin, the Gold Spike, Nevada Club.
That's
right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, the Nevada we had released earlier,
okay.
A couple of years earlier. But yes, a group came to us and was interested in all the properties. And it seemed like the time was right. Mr. Gahn, who I'm sure we'll talk about later, greatest man I've ever known.
Wow.
And had a wonderful relationship with him and the family. And he was getting older, and I think his son Michael decided, listen, my dad has all this stuff. I don't want anything to happen to him and then me have to deal with it.
Yeah.
So we wound up thinking that was probably the time to release a lot of the properties, and we thought the timing was right and the deal was appropriate. And
were you the GM at the plaza?
I was the general manager here at the plaza.
Okay.
And also ran the Gold Spike, and was helping Brady a little bit with the Vegas Club. So yes, we were very involved in it. The transfer went quite smoothly. The only thing we had to pull out of the deal was the El Cortez. The El Cortez was initially in, and but we couldn't sell it. Mr. Gahn lived there. So we had to keep the Cortez, but Michael didn't want the deal to go by, so he threw in some other property, which is the property on the south side of Fremont, between Las Vegas Boulevard and 6th Street,
which is now Commonwealth and Latai and La Comida, those buildings.
That's correct. So he threw in everything he could, so Michael wouldn't have to deal with it in case something happened with Mr. Gahn. And then, of course, when Mr. Gahn became 90, then Michael came back and said, hey, I don't want to deal with the Cortez. You guys are owners here, being many of the Epstein family, Joe Woody and myself. And so he said, you guys are owners here. You got to buy out my dad's shares.
Wow.
And so we had a big party on Jackie Gahn Parkway for Jackie's 90th birthday. And
I was there.
Later,
I was there.
Yes.
I remember that.
It was well attended. Mr. Bill Boyd was there. Of course, Jack Binion, Michael Gahn. What was interesting is Harry Reid.
Yeah.
Whether you, whatever you think of him, he's very pleasant. Looked up to Mr. Gahn, took his call anytime he called. Well, he came to Mr. Gahn's birthday on Thursday and spoke, and the election was that Tuesday.
Oh, yeah.
And it was a very contentious election, but it meant an awful lot to Senator Reid, and it made for a great night.
Wow, what a great recollection. So I hadn't heard some of that, so I appreciate you sharing that with us. But I'm curious because we will talk about Jackie Gone because that's someone else that I've often looked up to. But how did you get mixed up with him? Where did that come from?
Oh, well, I met Jackie Gone when I was 16.
Here in Las Vegas?
Here in Las Vegas. He was on my Eagle Border Review and through the Boy Scouts. And so I met him then. And then I was going to Gorman, and they kind of fed us during the summer, trying to build up a little bit of bulk. So we would eat at the Hilton one night, Caesars one night, the Cortez. It sounds great, but they weren't giving us steaks. They were giving us a lot of mashed potatoes at the time. So I met him young. And actually, Kenny Epstein actually met Jackie when he was 16, which was 14 years earlier. And he met him up in Lake Tahoe.
Did you know Kenny at that time?
I didn't know Kenny until 1978.
Okay, so you knew Jackie first.
I knew Jackie when I was 16, when I was operating a hotel on the Strip, and when I turned 21, I wanted to learn more about the casino business. And I liked the idea. Corporations were springing up, and there wasn't many of these private groups. And so I went to see Mr. Gone, and luckily he hired me, and it was a great time from then on.
So that was your first job?
No, I worked on the Strip as a hotel manager.
Oh, okay.
Until I was 21.
Where was that? What property was that?
It was the Westwood Ho.
Oh,
we had 1,000 rooms there. It doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
But ran tremendous occupancy and good property. Petersons were good people. So really, other than summer and part-time jobs, I've only worked for the Petersons and then for Jackie and Kenny.
And what did Jackie have at that time? What was down here?
Jackie, back then, actually quite a bit. He owned about 33% of downtown. Wow. In addition to what we've talked about, he owned 33% of the Showboat, and he owned the Golden Nugget. And he owned the he had the Golden Nugget. It was Jackie and the Housels family, the Domainis. Now Steve Wynn told me this story, not Jackie, but Steve told me that Jackie brought him upstairs to the boardroom, introduced him to the board. Steve had bought a piece and said, I know this young fellow. He was 28 years old at the time, and I want to put him on the board. And Steve and Jackie were always very, very close, as Steve was close with Benny Binion also. And so then Steve got on the board and in turn bought everybody else out throughout the years. But Jackie was the king of the fun book. He started the fun book, and he still had it in the Nugget. You would get a roll of nickels at the Nugget, and Jackie asked him, do you want me to take this out? And Steve goes, no, it's always been there. Just leave it there. The same thing with the Mini Price, which was a motel, became Palace Station, a Bingo Palace, I'm sorry. And it was owned by Carl Thomas and the governor's dad, Bob Miller's dad, and the Frank Fertitta. And Jackie used to deliver coupons there. Huh. And they started opening, they were building the Bingo Palace, and he said, you want me to stop this? You're building your casino. No, Jackie, you've always done this. You got to keep doing it.
Keep going, yeah.
And what was funny about the fun book is I asked Jackie at the time, now we have 360 rooms at the Cortez, and at the time they only had about 150 rooms. And I said, Jackie, you need more rooms. He said, what are you talking about? I have 10,000 rooms. And what it was, there was not big hotels at the time. It was all the motels. and Jackie delivered the fun books to all the hotels.
And these fun books, are they like coupons? So there was things to do?
Yeah, the fun book was different things. Bingo play.
Right. It's like promotional.
Ticket, a roll of nickels, a free drink, whatever it might be. And, Jonathan, here, when the Plaza opened, the Plaza was like in the top 5 largest hotels in the country, with only 500 rooms. There was only the one tower then.
Right, just this one.
But then Kirk Kerkorian, of course, opened the International, and that became the theme. And then Kirk kept expanding at the Flamingo, and then the Mirage went up, and all these 3,500 and then 5,000 room hotels. But not only was the Plaza like in the top 5 of the largest hotels, it also you had the largest casino in the world.
Yeah, no, I remember reading that was on the big sign as well, largest casino on opening night. But when did you sort of when did you? Well, you told us when you started working with Jackie, but where was that? What was your first position with Jackie, and where was it?
I was at the El Cortez. He put me into the cage on Graveyard, and I was like, what did I just do? And I was there a couple of weeks, and he came and said, you'll be here at 7 tomorrow? Yes. And he goes, well, I'm going to take you down. You're going to be my slot manager at a place I have down the street. I said, Mr. Gahn, I'm 21. I don't know a lot about slots. He said, I'll teach you.
Yeah.
And next morning, he picked me up, made me the slot manager of a place we had with the 131 penny games, Club Bingo. And he'd call me every morning at 4 a.m. to get the figures, come down at 6 a.m. At the time, the Cortez Tower wasn't built. He lived on the country club in the tower there that Mr. Mulaski built. And he'd pull up at 6 o'clock, and we would walk Fremont Street every morning at 6. And he knew everybody. We went in each place. We were talking about Steve Wynn earlier, and he knew every slot manager. The thing about Jackie that was different than any other owner is he knew slot machines. He put the slot machines in Caesar's Palace. He had the slots at the Flamingo when he had 3% of the Flamingo shortly after Ben Siegel was killed. And but he put them into Caesar's, he and Al Facino. So he knew slot machines. Every machine had to go to the Cortez, and then Mr. Kerkorian or Jack Binion would call him, how are these doing? And then they could sell the machines if they worked for Jackie, and that went on until Steve opened the Mirage. But a story that Steve told at Jackie's funeral was Jackie had talked to Steve, and he said, you got these new dollar slots, but you have them in a bad location. You need to move these over by the cage. And Steve said, I'll talk to that's a good idea. I'll talk to my slot manager about it. And Jackie said, well, I already did. He's going to move them at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. So Jackie was quite a bit downtown. As I said, owned a lot of different properties. And amazing person.
If you could identify one or two things, or maybe more, because you probably could do more, but what were the top few things that you learned from Jackie about the business and that stuck with you for the rest of your career?
Well, the thing is, I would have to say, if anybody ever had a complaint about Jackie, I would protest, and I'd need to talk to him about it. Because it was hard to, anybody had anything bad to say about Jackie Gahn. He was the most fair man I've ever seen, and the people trusted him. Back in the day in casinos, you weren't sure what was going on with the deck of cards or the slot machine, but everybody knew they were getting a fair shake with Mr. Gahn. And that was so important. Any customer could talk to him. He was on the floor every day. It wasn't somebody that lived out of town or a corporation. So any employee could see Jackie anytime they wanted. He actually hired every single employee that worked for him. And his work ethic, like I say, 4 o'clock in the morning, he'd leave the Cortez probably about 10 at night. But it was you would always get a fair shake. He would always tell anybody, listen, it's got to work for you. It's got to work for me. I'm not signing any year, 2-year, 30-day contracts. It's got to work for it. If it's good for you, it's good for me. And that's how he did business. The other thing that I get caught on a lot is I'm walking through, straightening chairs, picking up coffee cups and emptying ashtrays. And my wife gets on me because I could be walking through any casino and do the same thing.
I was about to say,
what do you think you're doing?
I was about to say, do you find yourself doing that in other places? You walk through and you pick up a dirty old cup or something?
But the people like it, and what it is, it's that team effort that Jackie always went by, where we're all in this together and we all have to help each other. It's busy. The cocktail waitresses are busy. Let's help them pick these up. Let's keep the place straight. Jackie's car was an interesting thing. Kenny can tell stories about the dog hair from Charlie in the car on his suits, but it smelt like gas. So Jackie's car, he had gas cans in the back. He had jumper cables. Any customer would come down, Mr. Gone, my car won't start. What level are you on? I'll be right there.
And he would
bring his car
it?
up, jump the car. I ran out of gas. Okay, I got gas. I'll meet you. We'll put some gas, get you to the gas station.
Unreal.
Wow.
A real man of the people.
Unbelievably.
Is there anyone that you think similar today still doing that, or will there ever be someone again like that, or have we just gotten too big and too corporate?
But the people that he was around, I mean, I see Kenny do the same thing. I mean, we're in the same mold. Kenny met Jackie when he was 16, but he became partners with Jackie in 1975 at the Cortez, and he ran swing shift there until Michael Gone was opening the Barbary. And Kenny went with Michael and Frank Todi and Tito Taberti out to the Barbary as a partner there. I'm not sure. Some people will say that Jackie wanted Kenny to go and watch how Michael was spending his money. But
were you at the Barbary Coast? Or you
I
never
was
went there?
never at the Barbary.
You were always a downtown guy, other than
always downtown, somewhere downtown.
There's so much history that you've witnessed. But let's go back to when the El Cortez first opened in 1941.
Right.
It was a premier casino. And then I understand that in 1945, some East Coast investors like Bugsy Siegel and Mayor Lansky got involved. And the El Cortez is where organized crime learned the casino business, if skimming was even possible. And then they took that to the Flamingo. So the El Cortez is really where it all started and where the mob got their feet wet.
Well, that's and I think you might have seen some of our infomercials, but Jeff Schumacher, if I pronounce that right, who's the historian for the Mob Museum with Jonathan Ullman, and Jeff actually said that was where the mob first came to Nevada. Happened to be at the El Cortez. So it was built in 1941 by a fellow, Marion Hicks. I know his grandsons very well, and his daughter. He got together with the Housels and with Mr. Housels, J.K., and they built the Cortez, and then he got in some money problems, and a fellow named Myra Lansky figured he could help him and took over. And when he did, he brought in Siegel, gave him 10% to operate it, which he did until he moved to build the Flamingo. And at that time, the other people, when Siegel met his dismay, Davy Berman took over the Flamingo. But in the meantime, they were at the El Cortez. So we had Mo Sedway was the hotel manager. Gus Greenbaum was there. I'm not sure if Benny Golfstein was there, but he was with the group. And so they were operating the Cortez. When Siegel was killed, they all moved to the Flamingo. The El Cortez went back to J.K. Housel's, who operated until Mr. Gaughan took it over in 1963. Is when he came in. And that training, though, always went on. Mr. Gaughan was more of the slot, not the pit. But all the casino bosses at the Caesars was getting ready to open in '66. And Moki Facino was at the Cortez. And most of his bosses all trained at the Cortez. And then they moved to Caesars.
I have two questions. When in 1978, did you know that this sort of organized crime was going on at the El Cortez before or at Flamingo or anywhere in Las Vegas? Was it like spoken about or was it under the table? Did people know about it then?
Well, I could say, like Carolyn Goodman, I read The Greenfeld Jungle when I was in high school. So, no, we knew a little bit about it. Of course, nothing. Jackie Gaughan was a bookmaker, and that's what he did in Nebraska. He ran the gold sheet for Mr. Barrick, Eddie Barrick. We see one of his buildings at UNLV. But he was a bookmaker, and he came to Las Vegas, had a piece of the Boulder Club, later the Flamingo, bought the Las Vegas Club in '61, reopened it.
He put the sports theme there. That's why it had that sports theme.
That's correct. At the time, there was books open around town, but not in the casino.
Yeah, we did an episode with Joe Asher talking about books, and this came up as the first sports book in the whole city. This was really where it began. Yeah.
And then my other question is, when you took over and started working at the El Cortez, was there any like secret notes in a folder somewhere that told you how to skim or anything like that?
No.
Any back doors, any remnants?
No, not. I won't say that it was eliminated in Nevada, but no, nothing. Nothing associated with Jackie or his partners. That was, That was not in those. Gaming control really got a handle on things. Howard Hughes, as we know, changed a lot when he went in and started buying places up on the Strip, and that eliminated that Teamster money, if I could say, those funds that were used to help support it. And then the final, I think, was the 3 hotels that they closed one night, being the Sundance, the Fremont, and the Stardust. And we took over the Sundance that night and ran it until Mr. Dalitz could find a buyer.
Really? I'm looking at you just amazed.
And Sam Boyd, Bill Boyd, the Fremont was closed maybe 2 days, and Mr. Boyd took over the Fremont and the Stardust.
Wow. I'm looking at you with amazement just because these are things I've never heard, and you have so much history here. I am curious, though. You said, you were 21, you were doing the slots. What was it? What did you do at night in town here? Like, what could you do to go out? What was the idea of fun, partying? Nowadays it's all nightclubs and different, but... Yeah, no,
there was a little bit of nightclubs. Once in a while we'd go gamble. Luckily I didn't get hooked on that, and actually after I turned 21 it was legal, so it kind of lost some of its fun. Yeah, I actually had gotten kicked out of the Las Vegas Club when I was in high school.
You got kicked out and then you owned it. That's pretty good.
Yeah. Actually, the lounges were big back then. And the casinos had the lounges, which were amazing. I'd get off work at Westward Ho, go to the Sahara.
That's what I was going to ask you. Did you go to the Strip, back to like the International,
I would go to the
Sahara?
They had a lounge, and I loved the Imperials played there, and I actually followed them to other places they went with their music. And there was many, whether it was Louis Prima, Sam Butera, and the Witnesses. The lounge acts were really good. And being in high school, we were able to, somebody was in the casino, so we did go to a lot of the shows. Whether I saw Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Ella Fitzgerald, I remember loving, Alan King, some great shows. The only nightclub I could remember was the Troubadour, which was, I believe, just about behind the Stardust.
Must have been so much fun here.
I remember listening to, I can't remember, Billy Don't Be a Hero, Bo Donaldson and the Haywoods there. So there was things to do, and of course I had scouting, and then there was sports. So
got it. So we just finished a meeting like an hour ago discussing the Plaza's 50th anniversary.
Yes,
which is coming up next year. And what year did you get involved at the Plaza?
1988.
Okay, and give us your recollection of what the Plaza was like back then. It was still the second biggest hotel downtown. Back then, I believe Golden Nuggets was the biggest back then.
I remember when the Golden Nugget didn't have rooms.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They didn't have any rooms, and Steve was opening the first tower, and they had a room not much bigger than the room we're sitting in, pretty small. And he had a fellow called Kenny Rogers he brought in. And so I went opening night, the second show, and it probably only held maybe 125 people. And Kenny Rogers said he had to turn the music down because he blew the people against the wall in the first show. And, of course, Kenny Rogers had stuck with Steve for a long, long time.
Right.
But the Plaza... I remember if you watch the movie, I think it was Diamonds Are Forever, Sean Connery, 007, and he was racing down Fremont, and the train station was gone where I used to pick up my uncle at the train station, and there was a cyclone fence and a Tiberti construction sign, and the Plaza was being built.
Yeah.
So they did the one tower. We weren't allowed to have slot machines in the initial tower. It had to be in the world's largest casino because Union Pacific was a partner of the Plaza. That's why it was called the Union Plaza when they opened. And they couldn't allow gaming in their section that they owned. Then, several years later, the four fellows that opened the Plaza was Frank Scott, Sam Boyd, Mr. Housels, and Jackie Gaughan. And Frank Scott got in some sort of beef with Sam Boyd and said, you buy me out or I buy you out. Well, they bought out Mr. Boyd. Jackie felt terrible, so he built the Nevada Hotel across the street and gave it to Sam. And so Sam would have a place to go. And then Sam was raising money and built the California and gave the Nevada back to Jackie. And Jackie also gave Sam his Hawaiian business, which he started at the Cortez. It was a company called Midpack. And he brought him to the Plaza and gave it to Sam. And, of course,
don't tell me that.
The Boyd family went absolutely...
Don't tell me that's how the Hawaiians got over California.
Initially,
we could have had them here all this time?
Same thing when we took over the Sundance for that year. He put a couple of the groups into the Sundance also. But there was enough that we still had some here at the Plaza. But then it went on, and they built the second tower, and times got a little tight, and there was a couple of mishaps. And so they came to that meeting again, who's going to buy who out. And they bought out Frank Scott. And he went ahead and owned Clear Channel, had some TV stations, billboards. And that's the time that Mr. Gahn told me that I had enough time that I could come to the plaza too.
So he gave you, and he general manager right away?
No, I came in as the hotel manager.
Okay.
At that time, I had the hotel experience years prior on the Strip.
And what was the business like back then? Was it decent or?
It was good. It was good. It was a little tough times because of the expansion and trying to fill the additional 500 rooms. There was a lot.
Keep in mind, you didn't have websites, you didn't have OTAs, you didn't have anything.
Everything
right?
was charters. A lot of charters from the Midwest. There was large travel companies, MLT, which became Mark Travel, and
right. Still going.
there was several different companies, and travel agents were huge. There was travel agents everywhere, and so that's who we dealt with. And the airlines all did bookings with vouchers. So it changed, sure. When the OTAs, when the online booking came on, travel agencies went away.
How much of it was sort of database driven? Were you using a database then to bring back casino customers and hotel customers?
As best we could. There wasn't slot systems back then. So, the pit, the casino knew their customers, and they would invite them in for tournaments or different holidays, whatever. The slot customers, we tried to get the information, of course, on jackpots, but there was no slot system back then. So a lot of it, and what helped Jackie, was the word of mouth. We used to do 100 walk-ins a day. We just put on the marquee. Same thing, we borrowed it from Circus.
What was that?
We have a room. If we don't, we'll place you.
Okay.
And it was an easy access to pull right inside.
Right.
Jump out, run to the front desk to see if we had rooms.
That was the good thing about the plaza. You had the circular
that was
location.
perfect for the plaza. The Vegas Club, on the other hand, could only do maybe 5 to 10 walk-ins. It was tough to find, to go in around the corner, in the back, park and valet, go to the front desk, which was on the opposite side, to see if they had a room. So the plaza had the convenience at the time. And back in the day, bus business wasn't bad.
The Greyhound
where
bus.
You had Greyhound here at the plaza and at the Stardust. So there was a strip location downtown.
It probably made a lot of sense because back then there wasn't the same airline travel, so it wasn't as widespread. So the bus travel made sense for people to get here, and you probably got some decent clientele through that.
That's correct.
Giving them a 50-year lease in 1971 was probably a smart move. Today it's
whoever had to live with the lease after we left would have had a tough time with it.
Right. Exactly. Well said.
So the El Cortez is on the National Register of Historic Places.
Yes.
Why is it?
Well, it is because of the age and the architecture that we had there. And so we are the only hotel casino on the National Register. Now, it's not the national or the historic preservation. So if we wanted to do something, we could, but we like the history of the El Cortez. You brought up when it opened, it was a big thing back then. A lady that I knew, her husband was the cage manager for Benny Binion, and she was here. They lived in Tent City, which became the courthouse, which became the post office, which became the mob museum. She was here before that was even here. And she said she remembers the night the Cortez opened, that she walked clear across town, the 3 blocks, to the El Cortez to watch all the stars pull in and get out and come in. And the Cortez had a lot of history. If Bob Stoddall, who's a great historian here locally, and he'll talk about the El Cortez was the first one, because we had entertainment there, and was the first one to allow black entertainment. And it was constantly booked. We'd like to go back and look up more about it. I actually learned about that from Stoddall. I knew a little bit about it, but I didn't know quite the extent of the history.
Mike, tell me, do you think that when the deal went down for the plaza and you guys all moved up to the El Cortez, that you took the database and the top employees, or was it just leave whatever's at the plaza and we'll take whatever's still at the El Cortez over there?
When the plaza and all the properties were purchased, they were purchased with employees, with data, so on. So no, we didn't. It's a different thing. At the plaza, even though we ran very good occupancy, but the plaza was 75% tourist.
Right.
We had very few locals at the plaza. Our local base was already at the El Cortez. So when we went to the Cortez, we only took, Kenny, myself, and Joe Woody went down. But no, that wasn't something that was of interest. We have exactly the opposite. Even though we try to keep our 360 rooms over 90%,
right,
we're 75% local.
Locals.
Now we are getting more with what Tony Shea had done. With Fremont East. Mm-hmm. We had already built Fremont East, but then Tony got interested in it. Michael Cornwaite got him interested. He started developing. So the container park, we are getting some traffic.
I would say, obviously Tony was critical to it, but I would say don't underestimate the people that came down, like Beauty Bar, the Griffin.
Well, they were first.
Downtown Cocktail Room. Those people came before, and they would already started to make some progress down there.
Absolutely
and improve the area.
Correct. We were redoing it, and now it's just being redone again,
right,
on what Brad Jerbick's vision was, with all the trees and lights and whatnot. So we've gone through another transformation. But yes, Michael had done a lot. With the downtown cocktail room. You're right. The Griffin, the Beauty Bar were open. Michael talked us into what used to be J.C. Penney's and then was Fremont Medical.
Right. Yeah, you did the emergency arts.
With the emergency arts. And Michael ran the coffee shop. He and his wife leased all the bottom floor. And then they asked for the second floor, and we gave it to them. And they actually had 40 different tenants on the first two floors of Emergency Arts, which was once J.C. Penney's.
Yeah, that was crazy. I remember that. Well, I mean, I was one of the subtenants for a little bit. I did a little yoga studio in there for a couple of months.
Well, I wish you would have wound up, obviously, with what used to be Sears, and then Centel, the phone company, and then the Sheriff Card place. And that should have been yours and Mr. Zabadovich's
Art Museum. Exactly,
Art Museum. That, hindsight, that would have been perfect. It's right across from the El Cortez. Originally, Sears. J.C. Penney's, Sears, Woolworths, we had Ronzoni's. This was the big shopping area before they built the Boulevard Mall.
It's the Backstage Billiards building across the street from El Cortez now. We put a bid on that in 2007 to build a museum there. We actually won the bid, and then the recession happened.
I was on the board.
Oh, you were? And then the recession happened, and we were like, well, we can't build a museum right now, and then they gave the building away for something else. And
which was
the rest is history.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What's been going on lately? I mean, how's business been since we reopened? How's things been for you?
Actually, it's been good.
As a locals place, that's got to help you.
That's the thing is being more of the locals. The rooms aren't doing so well. We have 63 rooms, the Cabana Suite shut down, that we haven't reopened. Probably we could have used it this past weekend. We could have used it a couple other weekends. But we'll have that back open by the first of the year. We finally got, to get back to your questions, what's happening now, we finally got to our last 4 floors in the tower for the remodel. That got put on hold. That was going to start the following week. And I had to call and say it's on hold. But all 4 floors now have been ripped out over the last 4 weeks, and we should have those by the end of the year. And we've already done the other 9 floors. We had to cancel the carpet. The March 17th, the casino carpet we canceled. But we got a lot of stuff done while
Hold on, but I just saw you
closed.
did the casino carpet.
We just finished it Friday.
Oh, wow.
So everybody jumped in. It was a large project, but we got it all done. Took us 2 weeks. It looks great. A lot of people want us to save some of the old carpet so they can have it
Oh my God.
for history. And but the new carpet looks great. Obviously, anytime you do that, the smell's got to be better too. Because you're changing the carpet and the pad. We put in a whole new ceiling while we were closed, so it doesn't absorb any particles. So it's new ceiling, new carpet, and by the end of the year, those last 4 floors.
Yeah, you guys.
And we're always doing something, Jonathan.
I was about to say.
I mean, really quickly, when we were redoing the rooms back early 2000, they had just redone the DI, and Steve Wynn bought it and was going to tear it down and build Wynn. We got all that furniture, and we put it in one tower, and then Jonathan comes along, gets the same opportunity with Fontainebleau.
That's right.
And is able to redo. But I can't keep up with you, Jonathan. Every time I turn around, you guys are doing something.
Well, no.
And it looks, it's great to just, but, the funny thing, we're competitors, but we rely on each other. When Jonathan had to go through his remodeling and shut down 1,000 rooms, that hurt us all. When Binion's closed their 500 rooms, it didn't really hurt because it was the exact same month that the Golden Nugget opened 500 rooms in the Rush Tower. But even though we're competitors, we actually are all on the same team.
So I would.
What's good for downtown is good for all of us. What's good for Vegas.
And that's exactly right. And I was about to say, I was on an interview yesterday talking about Circa, and obviously people are saying, well, it's going to be competition for you guys. But, we're in the hotel business, we're in the casino business, but I think more than that, we're all in the downtown redevelopment business. And if downtown redevelops, we're going to do better. If you look at the fact that prior to the pandemic, downtown was the fastest growing segment in the entire state in terms of gaming win. That's got to show. That showed up in our numbers as huge growth for us year over year, and every year continued growth. So to see that, I think is a testament that downtown actually is more important to the whole than the individual properties. And so exactly what you said is that if one of us is doing better, we're all doing better because it's only going to grow this downtown market. And you feel the improvements when you see these improvements down here. So what I like about what you guys did, and it's a similar philosophy I have here, which is, you could argue 10 years ago, knock down the Plaza or knock down the Cortez and rebuild it, but actually improving it piece by piece, the way you're doing it or the way we're doing it here is a great approach as well. And we've seen the improvements by redoing rooms, by redoing restaurants. I come to Siegel's for lunch off in 1941. I come there for lunch off, and all the new rooms you have or the Cabana Suites. These continued improvements pay off results. And now you're doing the carpet, you're doing the roof. I love that you guys keep redoing the place.
Well, we like that original feel too, and the younger people like original. They don't like copies, and you're doing the same thing. Your history. This was the world's largest casino. It was right there with the Top Hotel. And it seems like everybody is constantly doing, Boyd just redid the California. And that's good because I've always gone by, if you feel comfortable in what you're doing and you're standing still, I believe you're going backwards. You got to keep going, keep spending to move forward, or you're left behind.
You're exactly right. So in closing, let me ask you a question. What do you see as the next couple of years, 5 years in downtown Las Vegas? Where do we go? You guys with the Cortez, the Plaza, but everything that's happening, where do you see this going?
Well, I think it's not only already a destination, but it continues as a destination. We have that lure of being downtown. Any place I travel to, I love to travel. I always go to downtown. I want to see the old section of the area. But it's all been formulated better. So we have so much. So with Circa, but all that property, we know all that property behind the plaza. So there's land usage. We have Cashman Field. We have a lot of property to our east now. And so there's a lot that can develop. And as I think they'll continue with the residential, and that residential will bring more retail. And it's just, it'll bring back the hub of the city that we used to have, and we've got some very good operators downtown.
Thank you so much for your time and for joining us on the corner of Main Street. We really appreciate it. You can learn more about the El Cortez at elcortezhotelcasino.com or on Instagram and Twitter at elcortezlv. We'll be back again soon, but in the meantime, follow us on social. On Twitter and Instagram, it's at Plaza Pod, and on Facebook, find us at Plaza Podcast, or go right to the top and tweet Jonathan at Jonathan Jossel. We'll see you next time from right here on the corner of Main Street.